Pleasant afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service weekly media briefing for Wednesday, 13th November 2019. And we are streaming live on CNC3 and also live on Facebook. I'm Wayne Mystar, Public Information Officer of the TTPS. Joining me on the media briefing today is the Deputy Commissioner of Police with responsibility of anti-crime operations, Mr. Jayson Forde. Also, Mr. Chandler, Head of Legal, is present. We also have Mr. Paul Neos, the ballistic expert. And of course, we have the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Griffith, who possibly may be asking some questions today. Okay. So we are here. Our topic today will be the dangers of illegal firearms, in particularly the assault rifles. But before we go into that, I just want to give you some information, an update. 9 persons arrested. Officers attached to the Special Investigations Unit, the Special Operations Response Team, the Interagency Task Force, and the Cybercrime Unit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, spearheaded by the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Griffith, arrested 9 persons between last night and this morning for alleged fraud at the Licensing Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. The police were engaged in tedious and continuous investigations over several months. And as a result, the offenses for alleged conspiring to defraud the state of Trinidad and Tobago, falsification of public records, and misbehavior in public office, among other serious offenses. Those arrested included a Special Reserve Police officer, 2 former public servants of the Licensing Authority, a financial advisor with a leading insurance group, and 2 businessmen. So that's some information as it relates to the breaking news. I now hand you over to Mr. Forde, who will now give us some information about the aspects of illegal firearms.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Mystar. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. The wider Trinidad and Tobago, good afternoon to you all. As the Deputy Commissioner of Police, responsibility for operations, I have enjoyed about 39 years of active police service. Serving without bias or affection the population of Trinidad and Tobago, and in addition, visitors, travelers, and business persons who want to come and enjoy our shores. During that time, I have been able to witness all manner of savagery perpetrated upon our citizenry. And at this time, as a representative speaker on behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, I want to let you know that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service stands and observes with interest and great expectancy the debate that is ongoing at present in the Senate, where they are looking at amendments as they relate to automatic firearms. To put this in proper perspective, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service respects the separation of power, and we will never, ever try to bully any arm of the state to do what is wrong. But what we will have conversations with them about is doing what is right. And what is right for all fair-minded and law-abiding citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to put another perspective forward. In the year 2018, just last year, we recovered a huge amount of firearms. And of those firearms, 33 were rifles. And of those 33, 5 were AR-15s. And you may say, just 5. Fast forward to the end of October, entering November 2019, and we have recovered 57 rifles so far, which is about a 24% increase compared to last year. But worse than that, we have seized 25 AR-15s. That amongst roughly, my math is not what I got selected to come into the police service for. It was because of probably my deductive ability. But my rough math says that that is a 400% increase. 5 last year, 25 this year. On the table before us, we have two types of rounds. A 5.56, which is this tall round here, and we have 9 millimeter, which are these two. Firearms should be in the hands of persons who have passed the necessary screening, necessary scrutiny, and have made the approval of the Commissioner of Police. Any person having an illegal firearm in Trinidad and Tobago or any part of the world, we can reasonably assume that that person has it for one intention, and that is to kill. A person having a pistol, which generally discharges the smaller round, the 9 millimeter round, and discharges it at anybody, we can expect death, we can expect wounding. The somewhat beauty of a 9 millimeter round is that it tries to find residence within the body. It may go out, but it tries to find residence. Conversely, a 5.56 round that is discharged by an AR-15 rifle does not look for residency. Imagine me on the wrong side of the law, and I have an AR-15 pointed at any one of you here, and you have 3 or 4 family members behind you, and I press one trigger, or press the trigger once, and discharges one round. You can rest assured that the funeral arrangements could be for 4 persons as opposed to 1. It tells you the magnitude of damage, magnitude of mayhem that can be caused by someone possessing an AR-15 rifle and discharging now not one, but a multitude of rounds. A pistol generally will have an average of 15 rounds in its magazine. See, when except you have an extended magazine. Compare that, and it does not compare, with an AR-15 that carries an average of 35 rounds. So you are armed with a pistol, and after 15 squeezes, you are through. You have to pull the weapon. With an AR, you have 15 squeezes. And if my math serves me right, you still have 20 squeezes. And if you multiply 20 by 4, and then go to 35 by 4, you do the math. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service understands that there will be voices that will have concerns about persons being denied bail for various offenses. What we need to be clear about is that an AR-15 is not a slingshot. It is not a carib or stag bottle or a solo bottle. An AR-15 is a killing weapon made for one purpose, to take lives. We are heavily influenced by the United States of America, so we don't have to go far to see what has been done with rifles of a similar nature, effecting death, mayhem, damage upon, many times, school children. And Trinidad, because of our love for carnival and other things, we have good imaginations. Imagine one madman in this country wanting to open an AR-15, one of our schools. You know, let me share a story with you. Earlier this year, we were hunting a gang leader, and he has since been charged and is before the court. Not for gang-related offenses, but for firearm offenses, attempt murder and murder. And through an informant, we had information that he was planning to kill some people in the West. And he and his cohorts had 3 AR-15s in their possession. Because of astute and rigorous policing, he backed down on his plan. But a party was in progress that he was going to shoot up, and there were approximately 100 persons in that party. 3 AR-15s fully loaded. That is 35 by 305. So he had 5 rounds to spare if he had decided to take out 1 person per round. Trinidad and Tobago members of the media, AR-15s are not toys. AR-15s and other assault rifles like AK-47s are meant for one thing and one thing only: to kill, and to kill even a trail of blood and gore in its path. We of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service would like to ask the debaters, we cannot command you, we'd like to ask you to soberly reflect on what can happen tomorrow and lend the necessary support to that amendment so that anyone found, especially with an automatic rifle in his more than her possession, will be denied bail for 120 days and brought before the court to be dealt with according to law. That is all I have to say at this time. I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Forde. I now ask Mr. Chandler.
Thank you, Mr. Mystar. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to expand upon what the DCP has just had to say. And firstly, let me reiterate that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service acknowledges the separation of powers and the role of the legislature. There is no way our intention to infringe upon that. But I must say that within the criminal justice system, the TTPS is probably the biggest stakeholder in the criminal justice system. That being the case, we must advocate for the amendment of the legislation, because this amendment seeks to address possession of firearms for the purpose of trafficking, and also it seeks to address possession of prohibited weapons. Prohibited weapons, simply, just to name a few, are automatic weapons, such as the AR-15, of which the DCP spoke of. It even includes grenades, rocket launchers, and things of that nature. So that it is something that is very serious, and so that we want to address that. And so we are advocating for the amendment of the legislation. And let me say from the outset that there is, in fact, a war on crime. Our society is dynamic and ever-changing. And as such, because it is so amorphous, our laws have to change to reflect the circumstances within our society. And I ask persons within our society, how many persons have imposed curfews upon themselves, or limit where they go, stop and check their rearview mirror, and are more cautious now? And why is that? Because crime is gripping our country. And one of the ways that we need to resist that is through rigorous and vigorous legislation. That being the case, justice must be balanced. And so the DCP would have spoken about the right to bail. And this is something that the Commissioner has been speaking about on numerous occasions within the public domain. The fact is that we recognize that persons have a constitutional right to bail. But the Constitution also speaks about the right to an individual's life, to security, to enjoyment of property. That's also a right enshrined. And so we must understand that there has to be a balancing exercise now when we speak about the right to bail and persons' right to security in this country. It is my view that the time has come for the judiciary to be able to have the power to reverse the burden when it comes to bail. That is, that an accused person, when they come before the court, they should be, especially when you're dealing with possession of narcotics for trafficking and possession of firearms for trafficking, possession of prohibited weapons, the burden should be reversed upon them to show why they are entitled to bail. This is actually a similar piece of legislation that operates within Canada. And they have that as a measure to treat with narcotics for trafficking and firearm-related offenses. And if you consider Canada, Canada has little or no crime. And I use those two examples because they go hand in hand. With the drugs will come guns. So that I am saying that we need to look at it carefully, and we are advocating for the amendment of this legislation because it is needed. It is not to say, and I want to add that it is not to say that it is intention to be punitive, because some may say, well, it is a form of punishment to have someone incarcerated for a period of 120 days, and they have not been found guilty of an offense as yet. But we must look at what is the purpose. The purpose is to act as a deterrent for the recidivists, those who would commit these offenses and come back and commit the same offenses again. The potential and would-be offenders, we want to send a clear and present message to them that it will not be tolerated in our society. Because we must look around and see that we are gripped with fear because of gun violence. Most of the murders that take place are as a result of a firearm. And so we must consider firearm offenses to be heinous, particularly those when they use prohibited weapons. I just want to move on now, secondly, and touch the issue of freedom of information. It is something that I have spoken about in the past, and I just want to touch on it again. And I want to do so because I'm in receipt of a pre-action letter from a particular media house, and it speaks to a particular journalist that is seeking certain information. Now, of course, it may be ventilated in court, so I don't want to put too much out there. But I want to advocate also, because we're talking about amending legislation, considerations were given recently to amending the Freedom of Information Act. And as head of the legal unit, on a daily basis, I cannot begin to name the amount of freedom of information requests that I have to deal with. And I say so because it is a process. Freedom of information requests come to the attention of the Commissioner of Police, who then sends it to the legal department. In and within itself, we need to consider what the request is. This will take some time. So the transmission will take time. Consideration of what the request is may take time. More importantly, we look at what the law is. Because even if a document is an exempt document, as a lot of what the requests are actually exempted, we need to do what is required by the law. When we consider all of the authorities, the common law authorities that speak to freedom of information requests and matters coming before the court, what is seen and what is required is a look at Section 35, which in essence is the public interest, the override of the public interest. Because the essence of that section says that, look, if a document is exempt, you still need to consider whether it should be disclosed in the interest of the public. So it's a balancing exercise. So when you consider that you're given 30 days to do all of this, it is a Herculean task. And I dare say that with the amount of information being requested by the TTPS, it is actually not possible, it's impracticable for us to fulfill these requests within a timely manner. So I'm advocating for an extended period of time, perhaps maybe 90 days, 60 days, I don't know, that will be up to the legislation. But we also, as the TTPS, we want to advance that sufficient time needs to be given when we are treating with freedom of information requests. And that is my contribution, Mr. Mystar.
Great, thanks very much, Mr. Christian Chandler, Head of Legal. We will now have a demonstration on, I would like to invite Mr. Paul Nehos. He's a firearms and ballistic expert, and he will now explain, there's a video that is going to be shown, and he'll give some practical explanations.
Mr. Mystar. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me today. There's a small video I had put together in conjunction with the TTPS communications unit, and you can just play it just to demonstrate some of the, some of the impact of an AR-15.
Last October, a 16 Orlando nightclub shooting, death toll of 107 there. Mass school shootings, 2012, the shooter at Sandy Hook Elementary was armed with 2 handguns. He had an AR-15 style weapon. He killed 26. Of course, yesterday the shooter used one, killed 17 more people.
So here's the entry of the bullet. For the first 5 or 6 centimeters, very little in the way of destruction or damage to tissues. But then as the round turns on its side and slows down in the tissue, we get this cavitation effect. All the energy is dumped into the body, and you're tearing a huge amount of trauma to tissues. Full auto.
All right, so that was just a demonstration of, the type of firepower that can come out from one of these ARs. These are not any special ARs. This is nothing made for video. This is what criminals currently possess on the street and possess in mass right now. And please bring up the picture of the 5.56 full metal jacket. Keep in mind, this is what happens when a single bullet hits, right? And we saw that people were doing what you call mag dumps, where they're emptying the magazine with between 30 to 50. Last one I believe was 100 round drum magazine, which is out there on the street, which criminals are possession of. There are four basic things on what you call a wound profile. This is the wound profile of a 5.56 rifle full metal jacket projectile. There'll be an entry. There'll be an exit. Sometimes, in the case as Mr. Forde was saying, in the case of full metal jacket pistol rounds. And hollow points as well have a tendency to stay in the body. They have a tendency, even full metal jacket of pistol, not to overpenetrate because it doesn't possess that kind of energy. 5.56 is designed to go through. It fragments in the body, it causes a lot of harm, and a lot of times it comes out the body, sometimes taking bone fragments, sometimes having parts of its shattered jacket in it. And if you notice, when it enters, it's a very small wound when it enters, but not for long. What happens is that this is the tissue expanding around, creating a temporary channel, temporary cavity, exit wound, and then this shaded part is the permanent wound channel. Tissue expands and goes back and contracts back. So the temporary cavity usually is not an issue when you're dealing with any pistol rounds, what you would say aren't exactly high velocity projectiles compared to rifles. What goes on is that the temporary cavity stretches, comes back. The only real harm is the permanent cavity. However, these 5.56, may I?
Yes.
This point around here, where it's crimped and where it attaches for the bullet to join the rest of the round. Because of the grain of it, it causes fragmentation when it hits the body. As it goes in, it's not like a pistol round that will go in, possibly yaw a little bit, and then continue along a track. When it goes in, it tends to break apart and lose stability. It starts to yaw, so it makes a bigger permanent wound channel. And the reason you're seeing all of this damage here is because when that tissue expands, as you saw in the ballistic gelatin, it expands, it breaks apart, and tissue is comfortable expanding and coming back together for the temporary cavity in a normal situation. However, those little metal fragments go into the temporary cavity. So when the cavity is the tissue is trying to come back to normal now, it creates tears, and it starts to detach muscle as well. So it creates a lot of devastation. And if you notice, there's even another exit wound, a second permanent wound channel, which is additional trauma, which is additional bleeding, has formed, and the projectile is over here. This is from fragments of the bullet. It's designed to be, it's designed to lose stability once it enters the body. As Mr. Forde was saying, these are weapons of war. These are weapons to kill. It's not like a pistol round at all. As a matter of fact, in terms of kinetic energy, foot-pounds of energy is the preferred unit of measurement for kinetic energy. These pistol rounds will carry somewhere 9mm, somewhere between 320 foot-pounds of energy to 350 foot-pounds of energy. In contrast, these rifle rounds, 5.56, will carry around anywhere from 1,300 foot-pounds of energy to 1,600 foot-pounds of energy. So you see how much of a difference it makes. And in the magazines, they carry anywhere between 30 to 50 to 100, depending on the magazine you have. And they can just be shot over and over, whether it's in semi-automatic mode or, frightening enough, fully automatic mode. Remember something, that when a police officer or a military soldier takes a shot, they're taking a shot, they're aiming, they are trying to be accountable for the ammunition. They're going for a specific target. What criminals are doing is that they're holding on a trigger and they're just spraying along the place. So the chance of somebody innocent in that situation, well, everyone is innocent in that situation except the criminal, but the chance of somebody being hit that was not the target is incredibly high. And in the military, they call that collateral damage. When criminals do it, they call it a massacre. So you can go on to the other one. This is to show another danger of it, is that most vests that you see personnel wearing, armed service personnel, you'll find them wearing level 3A armor vests, which is designed for pistol rounds. It will stop a pistol round effectively. May cause some blunt force trauma to the officer, but generally it will stop the round or dissipate most of the energy of the round. This is a wound profile of what you call a soft point. Not really, I don't think they have any soft points here where we know about in terms of 5.56. However, when something hits a vest that is not adequate to stop it, this is what can happen. It hits and all the kinetic energy instantly gets dumped into the target. So it gives you the same effect of having a soft point. So it basically turns a 5.56 full metal jacket into having the effect of a pistol hollow point round, where if you notice, the same fragmentation occurs, but there's a much larger wound channel coming out of it, and same thing, detached muscle from the fragmentation. So pull up the video again. Just want to explain some things in the video, and to show again the danger in having these weapons out there, and why these weapons are weapons of war, not weapons that not usually. So you'll notice, stop it. You'll notice every time he hits it, look carefully, you'll see that barrel is a steel barrel filled with water. It's incredibly heavy, and if you hit that with a pistol, you might get a small reaction, but look at the reaction when that hits it. The entire thing is being rocked. This is, you can continue the video. This is showing what they can do to the concrete as well. Remember, these aren't pistol rounds. These are pistol rounds. A few of them hit a concrete block. You might have to empty the entire magazine before you really break apart a concrete block. Watch with each of these rounds. Go ahead and play. Each of these rounds hitting. So imagine an officer or a person taking cover behind something. And there's actually a targeting back to show you. Let's just say someone's taking cover behind concrete.
Last October,
Pause it there.
Las Vegas.
And there's been a lot of AR-15s used in shootings. Used to be AKs because that was what was available on the black market. Now we're seeing the prevalence of the AR-15. And this gentleman was speaking in that particular interview about how easy it is to use as well. For anyone who has ever shot a rifle versus a pistol, a rifle is a lot easier to aim. It's more ergonomical to use for combat. You can actually fast forward a little bit. Past this clip.
12, the shooter at Sandy Hook yesterday, the shooter used one, killed 17 more.
Right here. So you see how fast this guy is reloading. He just keeps on changing magazines. And that's what happens in some mass shootings. People either have their guns prepped or have multiple magazines. Each one of these holding, I believe, 30 rounds, or they can slip in a drum magazine which holds 50, or a double drum magazine, dual drum that holds 100. You can play that. And to see how fast you can, and each one of these shots can kill a person. That's the kind of firepower the TTPS is facing out there from criminals right now, and by extension, the nation. That was, play that back one time. That was one bullet that went into the ballistic gelatin, which replicates human tissue. So
here's the entry.
that will be the continue. That's the entry room we're talking about.
First 5 or 6 centimeters.
Small, and
Very
then
little in the way of
devastation
destruction or damage to
when it
tissue.
fragments.
But then as the round turns on its side and slows down in the tissue, you get this cavitiation effect.
That's one shot.
It's dumped into the body,
They continue.
carrying
And this is what happens when you have someone with a double drum magazine. All right, you can stop it there. And this was the Las Vegas shooting. 59 people. You want to pull up the chart of the picture there of mass shootings in the US? Yep, and this is just a chart showing, look, Orlando, 2016, 50 killed in incident. Parkland, 17. Sutherland Springs, 26. Texas, 23. 59 in Las Vegas. So you can see that these weapons can be used to great devastation when it comes to these mass shootings. What is preventing a criminal right now, if he has possession of this, because they have the ammunition as well, what does that prevent him from going to a party, from going anywhere and deciding, especially with the type of drugs some of them are on now as well, or just the way they move now, let's make some mess, let's make some trouble, and to just open up. Thank God we haven't had any of that, thanks to, well, God's protecting us, one, and the police are getting these off the street as quickly as possible. But it's very disturbing the amount that are on the street now. This has become the new pistol. Remember before Bad John used to move with a revolver? Everyone had a revolver. Now it's this. It seems that every criminal is seeking to get an AR, and it seems that there are enough in the country to supply them. Keep in mind that the ballistics I mentioned with 1,300 to 1,500 foot-pounds. You see people being killed with a single pistol shot sometimes. That's only 300 and something foot-pounds of energy. These things are made to kill. They are weapons made for military use, for police use. You'll see SWAT teams using this. You'll see specialized units using these weapons. You'll see military using it. This is not a weapon we want on the street, and this is a weapon that the TTPS needs to have the support of every citizen in taking off of the street. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Paul Nehus, firearms and ballistic expert. We're now opening for any questions that you may have.
From TTPS. Superintendent spoke about the 9 arrested. What licensing officers did these 9 arrested came from?
I think Port of Spain. Port of Spain. Yeah, Port of Spain area. The Port of Spain area.
For the Spain area. Is there any intention to investigate the other licensing officers where claims of corruption are occurring?
Well, of course, most definitely. Once the police is aware, we will be investigating those crimes.
All right. We spoke about the ammunition. Are these rounds armor? Do they have armor piercing abilities, or we're just speaking about raw flesh that these rounds are taking out?
They have armor piercing capabilities.
Okay. In Christian Chandler, is 120 days enough to disallow bail? Is that enough to be required for due process to occur, or?
Well, I think that it gives an opportunity for the police to prepare its files and to be in a position of readiness. I think when you consider that and the new criminal procedure rules, that is to say that summary of evidence has to be prepared on the first hearing by the police. Having the file ready and being able to start the matter within 120, the fact of the matter is, quite frankly, it generally does not happen. But gradually, step by step, it is the direction that we have to go in. We have to get there.
Commissioner, you mind answering some questions? We just had a press conference by the Minister of National Security speaking about Cambridge Analytica and what possibly would have been UNC employing SEL to spy on others in 2013. At this time, you were actually the Minister of National Security. Were you aware of these things going on?
No, I was not.
Who will give permission, by any chance, about anything going on at the time in 2013 about people's browser history, if you had any idea of?
No, I won't. The Minister of National Security, he has contacted me. He intends to give me the document that he has in his possession, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We do not have this. And when it is given, it is going to be immediately handed over to DCP Forde, and he will launch an investigation if warranted. At this time, again, we do not have the information. The minister has it. He has spoken to me, and if it is that DCP Forde, if he believes that it will warrant an investigation based on possible criminal offences having taken place, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service would do so. So it will be difficult for me to actually state what transpired because I have actually no knowledge of anything like that transpiring when I was in that government.
Commissioner, what was such an investigation entail? Would you be part of that investigation?
No, I definitely would not be. And again, it may involve several different arms in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And we would be looking at from the cybercrime unit and other units dealing with this type of activity. But again, I wouldn't want to state much more until we actually get the documents and it will be handed over to DCP Forde for investigation.
Commissioner Griffith, Peter Christopher from Guardian Media. While I understand that you are still awaiting the information from the Ministry of National Security, the reference to Cambridge Analytica was done before. Was there any previous look into any breach of the Interception of Communications Act when the previous information came into the public domain?
Sorry, clarify that again.
Well, they had been mentioned before of Cambridge Analytica's involvement or interference in the 2010 elections. When that first surfaced, was there any attempt to see if there was any breach of the Interception of Communications Act?
Well, right. Okay. Well, no, the IOCA, that kicked in after 2010. Whatever transpired before 2010, certain activities, maybe unethical or not, which actually was brought to the attention of relevant administrations when it was when the SSA was the SIA. But after the enacting the Interception of Communication Act in 2011, I think, that will be something totally different. I honestly do not know what would have transpired prior to my term in office. I have to look at my watch from the 17th of August 2018. We have no information of any such activity taking place. But as I stated, the Minister of National Security, he has contacted me. He intends to bring documents to he'll be giving it to me. As soon as it is in my possession, it will be given to DCP Forde for investigation if required.
All right.
Commissioner, Minister Young indicated or suspected that the UNC they were still using the information and was tantamount to the abuse of the privacy of citizens. What's your take on that, and do you find it concerning or alarming at all?
I am never concerned or alarmed. I work on logic. I work on fact. I work on data. So I'm not going to work anything based on a rumor, based on hearsay, based on someone writing a book. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we have to work on proper investigation and then trying to get evidence to ascertain if a crime did take place. So I do not work on emotion or hearsay.
And on that
Well, again, it's weird because we do not know what the crime is, per se, because this may expand, or it may be nothing. It will be really inappropriate for me to make any comment on a matter we have not even seen the documents as yet.
Commissioner, how soon do you expect to receive the file from the Minister of National Security? Given this has been going on for quite some time, based on what he said at his press conference today.
Well, you'll have to ask the Minister of National Security that. He is the person that will have to bring it to me. He has spoken to me and he has given me the assurance that it will be given to me almost immediately. So I really do not know when.
And at no time was the TTPS at least contacted, liaised with throughout their investigation and all information that the AG and the National Security Minister would have gathered?
No. Okay. Anything else? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner, are these capabilities still present in Trinidad?
What's that?
The infrastructure, the software that STL would have used back in 2013.
Okay, I can't give the capability of something if it did or did not exist until we are able to verify what was the capability, what were the documents given, what approval was given. If any of these things were given, it will be difficult, if not impossible, for me to give capabilities of something if I do not know what was given to them.
Mr. Chandler, you made mention of the 120 days in prison to deter gun users and repeat offenders. Firstly, how do you reconcile having people in jail for 120 days? For 120 days, given that there's already overcrowding in the nation's prisons. And as well, the Commissioner of Police had made mention of gangs operating within the prison service. So you have people with guns entering prison for 120 days, lining together for 3 months.
Understood. That's a lot that you've packed in there. But firstly, let me say that that is something that, based on what you've just advanced, it has to be a holistic approach, and it has to be based on the administration, the government of the day. The justification, as I spoke about, is that it acts as a deterrent. We're looking at the deterrent factor, all right? Within the deterrent, there are other issues, like, for instance, you may have persons who might be now willing to come forward. It would possibly be easier for the TTPS to elicit information and evidence, because there's always a fear of persons within society of giving information. There's a fear of the person, they were able to access bail, they are now back where they were before, and so people are unwilling to give us that information. And so this would help in terms of our fight, taking the fights to the criminals. As it pertains to what you spoke about, overcrowding in the prison and that sort of thing, the TTPS, of course, has no control over that. What I can say is that the TTPS does work with the other institutions in liaising when we're dealing with gathering information and that sort of thing, so that the issues that you spoke about, without delving into it, what I can say is that the institutions are cognizant of it and they try to deal with it. So they are aware and they have put mechanisms in place to treat with it. I think that is as much as I can say.
Yeah, and if I could clarify again, with the 120 days, that is an avenue that will ensure that an individual is where they would belong. We have a situation where many persons who may be deemed informants or persons who want to support the police, they are fully aware that because of this get out of jail free card, the revolving door, where anyone has easy and immediate access to bail, they are fully aware if I decide to tip off on a gang member or shooter who will have this type of weaponry, it is easy that within 24 hours he will come back out onto the streets. And what would that do? That means that he will target the person who he believed may have tipped off the police. This has now reduced the number of persons who are coming forward to give information to the police. What we showed here today is an example of the difference between a sidearm to that of 5.56 assault rifle. In 1990, when we had the attempted coup, you would recall, these 100 insurgents, they had what could have been known as muskets. They had sidearms. They had the Davy Crockett days. One individual now could do more damage than probably the 100 individuals in the attempted coup. if you just look at what is there, I wanted to face reality to the country to understand. This is not something that Gary Griffith wants. This is something that is reality. I was at the International Association Chiefs of Police, and dozens of police chiefs, they just could not believe that a country could try to justify someone held with an assault rifle, something that can kill hundreds of persons, that we are trying to justify the right of a criminal over the rights of law-abiding citizens to live. The fact of the matter is that these weapons as well, this is also going to cause havoc to my police officers, because police officers, they put their lives on the line. They go out there and they are being fired upon by individuals with the type of weaponry that is there for a war. Yes, we are in a war. We are in a situation in a country where the number of homicides we have, it can actually be more than some countries that are involved in armed conflict. And the reason being is because of the type of weapons that criminal elements have now. Last year, there were, in comparison to this year, there have been 50 less woundings, shootings, homicides in comparison to last year. 50 less. But the homicide rate, we are just about 3 less than last year. The reason being is that the criminal elements no longer just have sidearms. When you have a 5.56 round penetrating an individual, they are not going to be wounded anymore. So we have reached a point now where what we are seeing here, thanks because God is a Trinity, but also because of good policing, we have never encountered this. We cannot in any way, form or fashion, allow criminal elements to have this type of weapon, and knowing fully well, because crime is a product of opportunity, they can have that window of opportunity to be released from prison when they know fully well, okay, I can transport 9 assault rifles, and I know that very well, I will get bail the very next day. We must provide the deterrent, and we must ensure that when these individuals are held, they go where they belong.
Commissioner, of the 400 plus murders for the year, do you have the statistics on how many were committed with the use of AR-15 and those type weapons?
I don't have it offhand, but I can provide that. I can get that for you.
And what is the cost of an AR-15 as far as you are aware, based on your intelligence, on the black market, and the cost of a single round?
Yeah, it's between $17,000 to $25,000. And that could vary from a couple $100s, and that's why it's accessible. So again, what happens is that many persons in this country were afraid of change, and again, my decisions I make, the comments I make, will be to look after the well-being of law-abiding citizens. Other persons may be looking after the well-being of criminal elements. So they have their job to do. I have noticed as well, even when I was in government, I was the Minister of National Security, and I would fight and support the police service to get individuals behind bars. It's inclusive of gang members and persons with weapons. At that time, there was the same thing with 120 days, no bail, even for a sidearm. And then someone will come as a temporary senator working in my own government, and he will be the same temporary senator that will become the defense attorney to get the same persons that I went as the Minister of National Security to try, and he will be there to get him out and to get them out. So it shows we need to be very careful when persons hold positions in Parliament. They operate as someone who is there to look after the well-being of the country and not see themselves caught up in that tunnel vision aspect of me being a defense attorney. Because when you do that, you're not looking at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is the fact that these weapons can be seen as weapons of war. This is a weapon of mass destruction, weapons of murder. And the easy thing for anyone to say is, well, the police could plant it. Trying to find a weapon like this and try to plant it on an individual, that is not what this law is about. Because if that is the case, then no law should ever come about. But we are so concerned that someone may try to frame someone, and that has always been the road march excuse by anyone who does not want change. Worldwide, this is what we are seeing here. If a terrorist is found with an improvised explosive device, an IED, or an ICW, an improvised chemical weapon, aka or a bomb, you do not need to press or detonate that bomb to be deemed a terrorist. The person will immediately be given capital punishment because you know what his intention is. If someone has weapons like this, you know what their intention is. Their intention is to kill, and you can kill dozens of persons within seconds. The United States, they are now looking at a system now of possible capital offense for persons shooting at police officers. We have individuals now that shoot at our police officers, and when our police officers shoot back, people want to criticize and condemn. It is time the law-abiding citizens, the good in our community, we circle the wagons and understand there are people out there who have an intention. They want to fight back to what it is we are doing. We are fighting back for the law-abiding citizens in this country. And it is time with the scales of justice can be tilted towards law-abiding citizens over criminals. And that is what the amendment to this bill is about.
Commissioner, just remind us, how soon will the TTPS offshore patrols be in place?
Offshore patrols, no, we're not going to have offshore patrol vessels, no. An offshore patrol vessel is a vessel that will be from 12 miles to 200 miles dealing with the exclusive economic zone. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we will be dealing from the shoreline to 2 miles out, that's tier 1. 2 miles to 12 miles is tier 2, that is what the Coast Guard will be dealing with the vessels they presently have. Tier 3 is 12 miles to 200 miles, which is the exclusive economic zone. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we will complement the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard by providing those type of patrols from the shoreline to 2 miles out. They will be moored primarily in the Carenage area, where they will be doing patrols along the Western Peninsula up to the Caroni Swamp. We'll have flat-bottom vessels to patrol it within the low-lying waters in the Caroni Swamp. And there will be another set of vessels moored in the San Fernando area to patrol La Brea, Point Fortin, San Fernando, and so forth. This will be, we have already started the process to contract the relevant individuals who would be taking part of or be part of this unit, and the vessel should be acquired. Everything will be fully implemented before the end of this year.
Commissioner, yesterday you made mention of a connection between Venezuelans and homicides. Is there also a connection between the AR-15s, the Venezuelans, and homicides? And can you detect when the increase in AR-15s started flooding the market?
I'll let Mr. Forde will answer that.
What I can say is that we have seen that roughly we had 10 more Venezuelans that were killed by way of homicides in our country compared to what existed before. We have one who is presently in prison, having been suspected of having committed a homicide. The intelligence suggests that a lot of the AR-15s are coming through the South American borders, coming through from Venezuela. As to better to put a correlation between the deaths of persons and AR-15s, we haven't gone down that deep, as I don't have that information, but certainly we can get it for you.
Okay. Again, looking at this might be old school, but it's just as deadly. This is a Galil. This is an assault rifle. This is not a pistol. This is not a toy gun. Any person who will call herself a politician and try to justify someone having something like this that can kill 35 persons in a few seconds, I see it as being irresponsible, and they need to get their act together. This is a weapon of mass destruction. This is a weapon of war. And we expect that someone will have something like this. And when we apprehend them, we are trying to justify that an individual who has the type of firepower to kill hundreds of persons in a few seconds, we are trying to justify that that person has a right for bail. This is not a sick country. This is not a banana republic. I am going to fight and say what is required to help the law-abiding citizens of this country. I welcome the fact that the vast majority of politicians, the Honorable Prime Minister, the Attorney General, the Minister of National Security, they have understood the wisdom and the importance of making sure we tilt the scales of justice towards the law-abiding citizens of this country. This here is not a firearm. It's not a sidearm. This is not a water gun. This is something that can kill hundreds of persons in seconds. Look at that screen. Trinidad and Tobago, we have been blessed. Our time is running out. We need to fight back and fight back hard. And those criminal elements who have this type of weapon, we need to put them where they belong, in a place where it is they cannot do damage to the law-abiding citizens of this country.